our focus now to some more, to of course our big focus this hour, which is the NewsX and Business World special panels on the Indian economy. We of course, as always, have a very special panel joining us for this show, which of course decodes where the Indian economy is currently, and of course what the plans will be in the next 6 months or 8 months for its revival, and hopefully for it to bounce back to the pre-COVID levels. Let me bring in Varun Alag, co-founder and CEO, Mama, who's with us live. We also have Aparupa Sur, founder and partner of the Crazy Yogi, freshly roasted and brewed artisanal coffee with us. Vaibhav Khandelwal, co-founder and CTO of Shadowfax, is with us. Sushant Gupta, founder and CEO of SG Analytics, is also joining us. Surbhi Bhatia, founder and CEO of the Mom Store, is with us live. Himanshu Johar, director of Lloyd's Ventures, joins us live. And Dr. Anurag Batra, editor-in-chief of Business World, is with us live as well. Welcome all of you, and thank you for joining us. Let me bring in Varun Alag first, if I can, at this point. Varun, how big a hit has your sector taken as a result of the pandemic and of course the lockdown? And as an entrepreneur, how are you readapting to get your business in order despite the current situation?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. I think overall, entire economy as well as all sectors have been hit, some less so and some more so. We are slightly fortunate to be in a sector of personal care, which is more essential than some of the other sectors, and hence has not seen as much of a decline. Although during the first 4 weeks of lockdown, when we also did see tremendous decline, which was largely fueled by our ability to supply. And it was not like consumers had stopped using personal care products, but largely because ability to fulfill did not exist, we saw sliding volumes. And given our business is actually 90% plus focused on e-commerce and online-based fulfillment, and after April, May and June onwards, we've actually seen a positive revival. And in fact, I'm sort of happy to say that we are actually at ahead and significantly ahead of our pre-COVID volumes now. And consumers have clearly shifted to one, online based purchase, and secondly have also shown more inclination towards brands which are chemical free, natural and safer compared to some of the other brand propositions which exist out there. And so both of these levers have actually positively affected our business, and we're growing ahead of our quarter one volumes, and significantly ahead so.
And if there is any change in the way you operate, what does that mean?
I think if I was to say 3 things is specifically what we have done, right? And these 3 months have taught us a lot, right? If you talk about overall the consumer products and FMCG sector, for the last 2 decades, 2 big trends had happened, right? One, to save on bottom lines and profit margins, a lot of externalization and imports of key materials had started happening from markets like China, etc., which clearly has taken a backseat in today's times, right? And localization as a strategy is clearly coming up, right? So we are really happy with the vocal for local war cry which has come forward, and we had for the last 6 months already been aligning ourselves towards more localized strategy, and that's what we have seen happening. And I think the second thing that has clearly happened is around creating more centers of supply. And so from operating on hub models where you had large warehouses and you were operating from them, and to having significantly larger number of spokes from which you can operate, because there is clearly uncertainty around lockdowns which persists and is going to persist for the next few quarters, right? So we, during this period, have actually opened warehouses in about 5 more cities in the last 2 months itself, right? Because multiple issues, be it the Amphan cyclone in Calcutta, or the lockdowns in Bombay, and the recent lockdown in Chennai led to closures of warehouses in different locations. So you had to have options from where you were able to supply your customers. So I think that's the second big thing that has happened, in terms of the way we have changed. I think the third thing that we are doing consciously is realizing consumers are looking for hygiene propositions, right, and germ kill propositions. And we are figuring out more categories where we can provide those propositions, right, because that consumer shift is clearly visible, and they are specifically asking us for the same. So I think those three are the big changes that we have made as an organization.
Thank you, Varun. Aparupa, it's like Varun has found a silver lining in the cloud. You turned an entrepreneur in these times. You started a coffee brand. So what made you do that, and where do you see the demand for your product in the next 3 to 6 months?
So firstly, Anurag, thank you for having me on the show. I think this is a great panel to be in. So we started the coffee journey in January. Obviously didn't have an idea of this pandemic coming our way. And when it hit us, I think we grappled for a couple of months initially, mostly like how Varun again mentioned, because of supplies and deliveries and stuff like that. But soon, I think we realized that the digital platform has caught on, and people are vigorously moving towards this online platform and ordering stuff which are high quality, which are organic, especially for coffee. When people started working out of home, most of the corporates shifted to working out of home. People realized that they wanted good coffee.
The new schools, there are the new offices, there are the new cinemas. Home is taking an entirely new meaning.
And when you're working out of home for 12 hours, you need good coffee, right? And teaching them how to brew fresh coffee was much more easier than before, because they had the time, they wanted good coffee. And, once they started ordering, then I don't think they have gone back, and they started subscribing. So the last 1 or 2 months has really seen a surge in our online orders and, retail also. So as far as coffee goes, and I think there are other product categories like biscuits and instant noodles, they have seen a huge.
Yes, and your product, of course, is also artisanal coffee.
Yeah.
And we've seen the growth, in the last 2-3 months, particularly of homegrown, artisanal and organic brands. Because of, I think, 2 reasons perhaps. One, this whole go vocal for local push, and also 2, people wanting to cut out extra, additives, like, and wanting to go for artisanal and organic stuff. Is that correct? Is that a trend you've seen?
Absolutely. And then you see people have started realizing that, the instant stuff is not good. They would actually want to have something which is grown organically, which has a traceability, which they have, which they know where it's coming from. You would want to know where your coffee is coming from, and of course the health benefits, of fresh coffee vis-a-vis an instant coffee. So people are slowly moving, and I think in a very consolidated manner towards good brands which are offering, organic stuff, which are offering chemical-free stuff, and I think. As a world, I think the next generation, the millennials, are also very, very focused towards this. So I think there's a good opportunity for brands like ours who are focusing on health, clean products, chemical-free products to, have a good market share. And, with the government's boost, I think the stimuli to MSMEs and startups, I think we'll have to see at some point how it trickles down to new brands like us. But the fact that this government is focusing on startups and seeing this as an opportunity of growing indigenous businesses, I think is a very positive move.
Okay. Let's take that to Vaibhav Khandelwal if we can. Vaibhav, what about your business? I think your product offering is also pretty unique in these current times. So how the last 3 months been like for you and your business? And what really led you to create Shadowfax and of course, apart from your other founders as well?
Sure. Thank you, Uday. So last 2-3 months have been really hectic for us. To just give a bit of context here, so we are into the express logistics platform. So we work with the major consumer brands across food, grocery, pharmaceutical, e-commerce, FMCG. And we do their last mile or their network operations for them. So when the lockdown started, there was a massive hue and cry for the essential items. And our orders in grocery and pharmaceuticals actually took a massive spike at that point of time. And at the same point of time, we also had to invest in a lot of capabilities, which resulted that the deliveries that we are doing, they are actually safe. And the customers are not actually getting an undue risk of unhygienic items being delivered to that. So we had to build in a AI algorithm to detect whether our delivery fleet is wearing a mask or not, whether they are carrying a sanitizer or not. And at the same time, we use a lot of location analytics to identify that which of our delivery partners are coming in from the containment zones and which of them are having a higher likelihood of getting a risk of infection. So these have been really hectic zone for us, but the good silver lining for us is that the move in this segment is clearly towards home delivery. Almost all the big chains in India, almost all the big players in India, they are now focusing on the importance of home delivery, and that has actually increased a lot of our margins. That has also increased a lot of our revenues at this point of time. So that has been the overall journey here. Some traditional players like D-Mart, for example, they also were very quick to pounce on the growing demand from their retail outlets as well.
But there's a perception, and this is a larger question. Of course, you spoke, at a micro level just now, but on a larger level, there is a perception that, for startups, funding is drying up currently. There have been examples, though, of startups which are still getting funded in the last 3 months, but the general perception is that VCs and, other entities are not funding as much as they were.
And their revenues have gone down to unprecedented low levels. So there is a twin negative impact to low revenues and lack of continued funding. And that may lead to startups shutting down. So what Uday is asking you, do you see that startups around you are facing issues? And do you see funding as a big issue going forward?
Or is it an unfair perception to say this, what we just said?
So I would align with the thoughts that you guys shared on it. Funding has been a concern for some of our clients or some of the startups whom we work with. A couple of reasons on that end. I mean, the market was bullish prior to COVID, and all of a sudden COVID hit us. So capability or the shock that actually the VCs took in, that was significant. And if you also see the sectors where they used to invest in, the shared economy was a major theme of investments. That actually took a massive toll during this COVID period. You now would want to own the asset rather than use a shared home or a shared bike or some other shared economy tool there. So that has taken a hit. The second part that has also impacted the startup funding is the entire the arrangement with China. So Chinese startups with the likes of Alibaba, Tencent, and a lot of other players as well, they used to invest extensively in some of our growth stage startups. So you talk about PTM, you talk about Swiggy, Zomato. They were big beneficiaries of that FDI coming in from there. With the updated regulations coming in on that end, the funding has actually dried up here. To be honest, I would say the impact on these startups, the startups, as you would also align, the entrepreneurs, they have a fighting instinct. There is a reason why they have grown to that much stature, and that's why you would see a lot of them still hanging in around, still innovating to find their right balance out there. But if you ask me on a macro level perspective, certainly a large number of startups, they have pivoted or they have shut their shops at this
point. Okay. Let's go to Surbhi. Yeah. Surbhi, again, you're in a space that in some way hasn't been less impacted negatively, rather it's been impacted positively. Tell us about where do you see the economy headed, and when do you in some way see demand coming back in other sectors?
Sure. So, for our sector, which is mother and baby products, COVID has been a silver lining. We've been able to double our business. I think overall e-commerce as a whole has seen a huge opportunity and is now a growth engine. A lot of large retail players are the real estate costs which come with the high street shops and malls is no longer feasible and have started pivoting online, which has led to, and even from customers' point of view, even though some retail segments have opened up, the footfalls are very, very low because customers are very, hesitant about going back into the shopping mode. So they have moved online, and even the late adopters, people who are not comfortable with digital payments, have now started buying online. So having said that, I think it's the era of the e-commerce, and a lot of brands will benefit by moving to e-commerce. And the flip side of it, however, is that even though the demand has surged, the supply side remains constricted. A lot of our manufacturing vendors are still, struggling to get back on track. They are still working on 50% capacity. So a lot of this economic stimulus that the government has announced needs to go to the manufacturing sector, which forms the backbone of the economy, so that the rise in demand that we are seeing from the consumer side can actually be met by the shortfall in supply that has seen during the lockdown. Because even though e-commerce continued to operate, manufacturing units were actually shut.
You're saying the supply chain was disrupted, and the supply chain coming back in full way will lead to demand. That's essentially what you're saying. Sushant, you look at a lot of data. You heard your co-panelists. Tell us something that we don't know about what's happening to Indian economy. I mean, give us some data points, give us some insights that we don't know about. Tell us, our viewers, something that they don't know.
I can only probably tell you something based on just what we've experienced in the last few months.
Yeah.
So while initially, post-March, everyone was expecting a downturn, both in the global markets as well as domestic markets, we've actually seen an upturn in some sectors. And the sectors are tech, which, as you know, all the FANG stocks are going through the roof. There is pharma, which is also booming. And the financial services sector is also doing reasonably well. It's holding firm. So I think taking the cue from that, these are the three sectors in India which I would say if there is sustained investment in these and supply chain investment as well, then these are the three sectors which could drive growth going forward. Because us personally at SG Analytics, we've actually grown 20% over the last 4 months, driven by demand from these sectors globally. So in my view, this is where the action will be. Of course, long term, everyone knows that infrastructure, agriculture, and manufacturing need to be invested into, and they would be drivers of growth in terms of multiplier effect.
And I just want to ask you a straight question, Sushant. When we're in October, a month before Diwali, where will the demand will be? Will it be at February levels? So will it be back at 100%, or will it be 70, 80? Will it be 120? Where, if you had to predict, what would you say?
I would say that we are looking at a slow revival. If we are, and it all depends actually on how where we are with respect to the vaccine. So if there is no vaccine and for considerable time up to next year, then we are looking at a slow revival. If there is a vaccine, then I think we could look at a very sharp revival, both in the market sentiment, because markets are usually, demand is also very much driven by sentiment. So everything is at the bottom in terms of sentiment right now.
There is a variable in terms of the cure for COVID, the vaccine. If that goes away, then but that's a big variable. There are lots of theories on that. Uday, just before we take the break, let's go to Mr. Jawahar. Mr. Jawahar, again, you're in the research space, analytics space, and you work with technology companies, telcos. Tell us something that we don't know.
Sure. I think, so we're in the telecom sector, and telecoms as an industry has been an industry that has actually, skyrocketed in these times. So I think anything to do with, work from home, learn from home, healthcare at home, right? I mean, my co-panelists have talked about different industries kind of booming up. I think everything kind of boils down to any industry, any business that is directly or indirectly linked to work from home, learn from home, and healthcare at home is kind of booming at the moment. telcos in different parts of the world have seen a huge upside when it comes to data, when it comes to digital. So telecoms as an industry has actually been, one of the few ones that's actually, kind of skyrocketed in these times.
Right. But where do you see demand?
Let's take, what we'll do is, Anurag, at this point, let's take a very short break, and then after the break, we will come back and, of course, explore some of these wider questions a bit in detail. We'll come back to Himanshu first, since we got him in last at this particular segment. We're back on the other side with more larger questions on the Indian economy. Stay with us.
This program is associated with LIC, Har Pal Aapke Saath.
At Trends, there's one thing we care about a lot: your safety. We followed the highest safety standards to welcome you back. With flat 50% off on the latest styles, drop by, shop safely, and get them talking.
True Shield Hand Sanitizer. True Shield Hand Sanitizer, made as per WHO guideline. A product of Piccadilly Agro Industries Limited, kills 99.9% germs and protects you from coronavirus. For sales and inquiries, please contact 999-61-23411. Email trueshield@piccadilly.com, alcoplus@piccadilly.com.
Why you went on a provisional post-mortem to cremate his body? What was the hurry? The husband does not report. I mean, obviously, he'll go call up the hotel and say, please send somebody. My wife appears to have been drowned.
Welcome back from the break. You're watching this special panel on the Indian economy. We are, of course, going to go straight back across to Himanshu at this point. I think, Dr. Batra, you had a larger question for him.
Himanshu, what I was asking is, there's some trends that we can see happening.
Right.
But tell us something that we are not being able to see in terms of trends in the economy, where it is headed, and if other markets are a good way to understand what will happen when the fear factor goes away.
Right.
Give us an insight into that.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, anything to do with work from home, learn from home, healthcare at home is huge at the moment. Looking at some of the other aspects, so I think a lot of the other co-panelists talked about, some are doing consumer business, some are into, some of the other sectors. And we talked about Diwali as well, right? I mean, will demand kind of pick up then? I do have a feeling, Diwali is big for Indians, right? And I do remember that 15th of April, at the time when China opened up lockdown, the luxury brand Hermes, right, which does those Birkin bags or whatever, right? Hermes did, in 8 hours in one day when they opened up the store, they did $3 million of sale in 8 hours, right? So from whatever, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. that they opened up the store, they did 20 crores worth of sale in 8 hours. So I think, and as I think Varun mentioned as well, right? I mean, when things open up, people start ordering. So I think it's going to be huge, because Diwali is huge for Indians. So I think it's going to be huge. Demand for certain products would sooner or later kind of return back as we head into the next quarter.
Sushant, you mentioned, of course, it all depends on the vaccine, but does it depend on when the peak also comes, in India? Because we still don't know. There's of course, these revised estimates which have been going out, from the ICMR side and, of course, health practitioners side. We've also, of course, been hearing that different parts of the country will have different peaks. It's not going to be a pan-India peak at one point. So will this comeback, pre-COVID time, demand level surge, will all of that depend on when the peak comes as well?
Absolutely, and where the peak comes when.
And when's your estimate? Since you're a numbers man, when's your estimate?
So there are a lot of numbers going on, but two numbers I was particularly fascinated about is this antigen testing results in Delhi and Bombay, which revealed that they're close to 23 to 24% of people have already been affected. And you notice that both these cities are now post-peak. So the number of cases in both these cities are coming down. So I'm interested to see the results of such a survey in other cities. And as I'm based in Pune, you know, Pune is peaking right now big time.
Oh, yeah.
So I would like to see if such a survey done in Pune, what are the results there? Because it seems that there's some correlation between the number of people who have been found positive with antigen and the peak. So I can only say based on what I've seen so far, but it would be interesting to watch.
Okay. Surabhi, if you had to in some way look at what you've done to kind of pivot. I know you talked about being direct to consumer, digital to consumer. You talked of omni-channel. But do you see retail store mattering less going forward, or people will still come to retail stores for experience?
I think retail stores will take a long time to come back because there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, there are new societal norms, new hygiene practices. So only X number of people are allowed in a store at a certain time. So that will mean longer queues. That will mean new social distancing norms. People used to go to the store for a whole new trial experience that, they could try and buy. But that's no longer going to happen in the new way. And with e-commerce promising quick deliveries and having the returns in exchange, I feel that retail stores will have to pivot online rather than, the online players having to pivot to a large extent.
Okay. Varun, same question to you. You have to unmute yourself, Varun.
I think this is the most commonly used statement right now. But yes, I have a very different point of view on the retail environment. And I think while e-commerce has clearly shown boom, and this is the time where clearly Kiranas have been the biggest heroes when it comes to fulfilling essentials for people. And there was a time almost 12 months back when e-commerce was booming, modern trade was growing, and a lot of people were calling out death knell for Kirana, saying, hey, it's time to shut down the mom and pops. Right? And this is clearly the time when it has been established, right, that Kiranas have come back as heroes and are going to stay. And one of the things which has happened is they have come back at a time when you rarely needed them, right? And these are stores where personal relationships matter. You know this guy, right? He knows you, right? And the fact that he or she was there when you needed them is going to go a long way. People are not going to forget that. And people are going to remember that this was the store which was open when their kid needed milk and they had to step out and get it. And that is going to have a major impact on ensuring that Kirana growth continues to happen. And where I think a lot of rethinking and as well as a lot of remodeling of how the business model was being run will need to happen is the modern trade channel, and where people were clearly stepping out for experiences and not just shopping. And now the fact that there is social distancing and you wouldn't want to sort of be in a place where there are 1,000 people in there, and I think that's the model where there will need to be some rethinking and tweaking. But this has been clearly the time when Kirana has come back big time.
I think I agree with Varun, and just to add, so with the whole Jio, WhatsApp and Facebook investment and partnership recently, the mom and pop shop is actually now becoming your e-commerce store, right? Which is you kind of open up your WhatsApp and you can now order. So it's a very similar model to what happened in Southeast Asia via WeChat, where I could basically, order my eggs and milk and bread and butter over WhatsApp and kind of pay over WhatsApp payment as well, right? So definitely,
and there are other players.
Shops are the heroes.
And there are other players also.
Varun, collaboration between Kiranas and of course e-commerce portals and also these digital payment portals, is that the future collaboration? This model that we've seen in the last 3 months, as you said, has shown us that neither is outdated. Both will coexist, and especially in a country like India, which often merges India with Bharat.
Yeah, so I think from a collaboration perspective, the jury is still out there. And it'll probably take a decade for us to reach a level where we can say, yeah, now that's a large enough business. If you understand, there are more than 10 million Kirana stores in India, right? And servicing this entire population of India. And only if something really happens at that, at least 20% of that scale, which means that 2 million plus Kirana stores are connected with people, is when it will become a really large business to make an impact. And it'll take some time for us to reach there. And globally, even in the other markets, it's still in nascent stages, is what I would say. And the penetration that the largest e-commerce and Kirana with WeChat that have been able to achieve is still less than 2%. And so while it does look like that will be future and technology will merge well with these highly penetrated Kirana stores, but I think the time is still a little further away. Right now, the phone call to this person and getting contactless delivery from your local baniya is still happening far more. And people also, especially the folks who have started stepping out at least to the stores, and you'll find that there is attraction which they are driving. Frequency of visits has reduced, but it's still physical retail which is flying there.
Okay. Aparupa, you worked in a bank before this. Do you think we don't need bank branches anymore? Fintech companies are the new banks, so to say, and going forward, possibly the asset-light model in every sector will become the way forward.
When it comes to retail banking, I think we are definitely moving towards a situation where going to branches will be lesser and lesser. Because your RMs, your phone banking and everything today and your apps on the mobile is doing everything that you need. I mean, you don't really have to go in the branches to withdraw money, and you just have your small ATMs that print the cash, and everything else you just do it on your app or mobile and your phone banking. So as a future, I think branches are going to reduce where banking is concerned, and they are mostly going to be serviced by the back offices and the digital RMs and your bots. Of course, family and wealth is a different matter, but for the common man, the retail, I think, is going to change in terms of banking pretty hugely. Because banks are also realizing the real estate costs for bank branches and the efficiency of without interface kind of a model. So they will, I think, going towards the future, they will really look at, optimizing that.
Okay. Quite interesting, Dr. Bhadra, before I come back to you, Aparupa, since you asked her, of course, about her specific example, it's quite interesting that you founded your business during these troubled times. What was your inspiration behind doing that? Did you believe that it was a huge risk as well that you were taking? Where did you get the confidence from? Where did you get the backing from? And how did that pan out?
So always wanted to get into something that adds value to somebody's life, and I have been a coffee addict all my life, and I've never found good coffee here. To be honest, that was my personal journey. And from banking towards passion, that's a huge leap. Any entrepreneurship, I think, is a huge leap of faith and risk and hope, which is what I took along with a partner of mine. So we started this journey in January just to explore how to get really good quality coffee to the consumers, coffee that is chemical free, which is organic, which is of really good flavor, and also fresh coffee, because Indians, we are tuned to brewing our chai, but not coffee. We go for the instant fix when it comes to coffee. We just buy it off the shelf. So it was a brave journey. I think it is a brave journey, but it's been a very heartwarming and welcoming journey because, like I said, in the last couple of months, the sales have surged. People have started understanding what fresh coffee is all about, brewing it. So it really gives a very positive outlook towards the kind of niche business that I'm in. So, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Batra, yes, you wanted to come in earlier.
One thing I want to ask all the entrepreneurs is, going forward, what are the things that you've learned in these 4 months that possibly will hold you in good stead throughout your life, throughout your career as an entrepreneur? We can start with anyone. We can start with you, Sushant.
I think the most important learning for me as a human being has been that you got to take care of the people around you. You got to take care of the society around you. And that is the most important aspect of being a leader, and all entrepreneurs are leaders. And if you do that well, and it has to come from within you, not with a motive, but it has to come from within you, that care and belonging with your people. So this crisis has taught me that a lot, and that's truly the learning for the future for me.
Okay, Vaibhav?
Vaibhav, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say agility. You need to be nimble in what you think, how you think, and execute as fast as possible. Another thing that I would say maybe applies to a lot of us in the startup community as well is good control over costs. So to thrive this pandemic, to thrive these scenarios, it's very important to have good command over your P&L. And as we see, I mean, if we talk about Amazon, Amazon has seen so many such downturns, and that's why it has become a leader. And the other competitors have died out in their lows. So that's something that we felt that it is an important part of our journey, and we are taking it in good strides.
Ruby?
Yeah, I would like to say two things. One is resilience, because these were, uncharted territory for all the entrepreneurs. So, how do you, we did not shut down our business for even a single day, even though we could not ship. And that was coming from customer centricity. We wanted our customers to feel comfortable that yes, as soon as things improve and lockdown opens up and e-commerce shipping is allowed, we will continue to ship. So customer centricity, focusing on them, talking to them regularly helped us a long way in understanding what they need, and we pivoted along with the customer feedback that we continue to get.
Okay. Varun?
I think number one thing that I'm going to take away is flexibility. So having plan A, but also having plan B, plan C, plan D.
Or not having a plan for that. Maybe the plan don't work. You got to take it as it comes. In fact, I'm a very successful entrepreneur, and he said to me that best are the people who haven't planned very long. They're only planning a week at a time. So, but I get your point.
Yeah.
You got to keep an open mind and not stick to a suggested plan that you may have.
Yeah. So I think not just that, but thinking about that if plan A does not work, right? If there is X failure, Y failure, Z failure, what can go wrong? And asking that question, and because we a lot of times what the questions that we ask is, hey, what went right, and let's do more of that. And we forget about asking the question, okay, what can go wrong, and on what all parameters, right? And let's start preparing for it. If this goes wrong, what will I do? If this goes wrong, what will I do? And so I think having those plans with BCDs is clearly something that this pandemic has taught us, and we've been effectively, like you rightly said, every week we have been having that Monday morning conversation and talking about, hey, what is going to go wrong this week?
Saturday, Sunday look like Monday. I don't think there is a differentiation on that. Himanshu, what have you learned that other people...
So I think the pandemic is, I think for all of us, is a great, not just for us, but all of us, is a great opportunity, right? I mean, great opportunity to think what you've done in the past vis-a-vis how do we improve. So for us at Lloyd's, we've been able to, it took us about, a couple of days, couple of weeks. It was chaotic. That was end of March, kind of, go work from home for all of us. We're a small company, but, for all 100, 150 of us to go work from home instantly, we were never that transformed. We never worked from home previously. But eventually it happened. I think we've learned a lot in terms of a lot of first times have happened, right? We hired people digitally for the first time. So for us, Touchwood, there was, we had our hiring on. We hired people digitally without meeting them. We've done trainings for them digitally. We haven't met the person in real. The person has not seen our office. We literally made a small HR deck which actually showed what the office looks like and what the culture and what the environment is, right? So I think it took me back to when I was 18 years old and, the first office and everything we did as an entrepreneur, 12 or 15 years back, it was sort of again, reinventing the wheel again to say, how do we live? How do we survive in the digital world? So a lot of first times happened again in the last 3 months. And it's been a great journey. Taught us a lot.
Okay, and Aparupa, what is your? I know you're very new into being an entrepreneur.
Yes. So at the Crazy Yogi, I think adaptability, because from going to start a cafe to getting on to a complete digital platform, to reinvent the whole cycle of how you see your customers, how you gratify your customers. That was a complete change. But necessity is, I think, the mother of innovation. So that is how we looked at it. So adaptability, I think, is one of the key things that we have taken from this entire pandemic situation. And the fact that we have to keep on innovating and to know that the customer today knows what they want and knows quality stuff and will go for it. And you have to just get the fulfillment right and be out there, and like Surbhi also said, be resilient and be at it, not to shift focus.
Okay, so reimagine your business, reinvent your business.
Absolutely.
Me and Uday would like to ask you our last question.
Yes.
If we had to look at the next 90 days, would you predict a better economy, worse economy, or would it be tepid like how it is now? Of course, there is a variable of when the vaccine will be, what the peak will be. Those are variables. But what's your sense in terms of economy in the next 90 days? So we start with you. Good, bad, worse.
I think it will be definitely better.
And why do you think so, Surbhi?
That's because people have come to accustom to themselves to the new normal. They have got used to the social distancing norms. They know that this is not something which is going away easily. So now they've adapted to their new situation.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm going to have to quickly come in there, and it's going to have to be a rapid fire now because we're running out of time. So let's quickly get in the others. Himanshu, good, bad, better, worse, 90 days from now, how's the economy going to be?
If I look at last 3 months, it'll be better, but I think we're headed from a U-shaped curve to an L-shape.
Okay.
And so it'll take a couple of years.
Okay.
I think it'll be slow, but we'll get there. I think we will move up the curve and get over it and get better. But it will be a slow growth. Yeah.
I hope the right curve and not the wrong curve.
I think it will be better for sure. I think we are learning to live with the disease now.
Okay. All right. Varun?
I'm rooting for good. I'm surely rooting for good. And I'm very confident it will be good.
90 days, you're rooting for good.
Yes, absolutely.
Trevor, you have the last word.
I would again go for good. I think the sentiment would improve as we move. We have seen the worst so far.
Okay. So that's a good optimistic note to end on, I think.
Uday sometimes ask me what's my view. I'll give I think in the next 90 days, we'll be worse off. But post Diwali, we'll start seeing a revival. And hopefully by March, April, we may be back to 50% of the levels.
Okay. Well, appreciate all of you joining us. I have to quickly turn, though, to some breaking news now coming in.
Thank you.